Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Zongmang. The promised second illness, are you really playing? People in Zongmang Daily Awakening Listening System. Listening to others' advice and following their advice can earn rewards. So, Su Lilang flew up, question. How to improve painting skills. Yingli Li created Gongkou Comics, sold 1 million copies, and surpassed Van Gogh in drawing skills. A few days later, countless masterpieces of Gongkou were born on the internet, and none of Yingli Li's notebooks could be sold, causing her to cry like a sand. Question. How to become a wealthy person. See Gong Hui Ye. Confess to a wealthy lady and guarantee that you will be able to drive a BMW and stay in a big house. That nightSu Li decisively confessed to Qian Fantian Aichi, and Sigong Huiye turned black on the spot. Question. How to obtain a writing will. Little Bird's tour of 6 flowers. Signing a contract with the evil king's true eye Envoy, having All EyesSu Li kissed on the spot and harvested an eternal kaleidoscope with various unreliable suggestions. Su Li's ability became stronger and stronger. Unconsciously, she was already omniscient and invincible in all worlds. Little Bird swims 6 flower chi cries. We agreed to get 2 illnesses together. Are you really here? Involving spring objects, passers-by, secondary illnesses, inability to learn, 4 palaces, and ice candy. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. People become stronger by listening to advice in a comprehensive manga. You are listening at novelfull.audio. General Wu Gao, on the rooftop. Listen up, Li Jun. At this moment, a slender and petite girl wearing an eye mask, with her waist crossed, said solemnly to the young man ahead. If you want to awaken the evil king's true eye like me, there is only one way, and that is to use the body of the evil king's true eye as the object of meditation, meditating for 3 days and 3 nights. The young man had a handsome face, but his temperament seemed somewhat innocent. He was as shocked by the girl's words, and his eyes were filled with admiration and admiration. Feeling the boy's admiration for him, little bird Liuhua couldn't help but feel proud in her heart. But there was a hint of imperceptible panic in her beautiful eyes. Although it is a secondary illness, little bird Liuhua actually knows in her heart that there is no such thing as the evil king's true eye. If the person in front of them cannot learn the true eyes of the evil king, their admiration for themselves will not disappear, thinking that they are a scammer, right? Little bird swims 6 flowers and feels very worried inside. After all, after arriving at Zongwu High School, she had hardly encountered anyone of her kind. Now I finally met someone of the same kind who still firmly believed in the true eye of the evil king, and even asked myself how to learn the true eye. She doesn't want to lose such a good partner. Hey, I can only rely on Su Li and Takashi Zhaomiao being as easy to fool. At this point, the bird can only pray like this when swimming in the 6 flowers. Worried in her heart, but on the surface, she still appeared to have a serious attitude and had a deep belief in the way the evil king's true eye was controlled. That is to say, with little bird you as the meditation object, after 72 hours of meditation, you can awaken the evil king's true eye, right? Su Li's eyes were full of light, as if he truly believed in the words of Liuhua being played by a bird. At this moment, there was a hint of longing and expectation in her innocent and beautiful eyes. Seeing the longing gaze, little bird Liuhua's pretty face couldn't help but blush slightly. After all, this Su Li has a very handsome appearance, coupled with his complete conviction and admiration for himself, which makes little bird and 6 flowers feel guilty about not deceiving people who trust him so much. No, the true eye of the evil king is real, and the boundaries of the invisible realm also exist. At this moment, little bird Liuhua shook her head fiercely, abandoning her weak thoughts in her heart. If Su Li really has sincerity, he may not be able to learn the true eye of the evil king and see that mysterious world. So self-deceiving, little bird Liuhua quickly put that little guilt behind her. That's right, with my qualifications, I can do it, and with your qualifications, I'm sure you can too. Little bird Yulu nodded solemnly. Capture suggestion. Imagine a bird swimming in 6 flowers for 72 hours, reward. Colorful Eye. Upon hearing the voice in his mind, Su Li's handsome face couldn't help but show a hint of surprise. Indeed successful. The persuasion system really allows me to acquire extraordinary abilities. Su Li's mood was inexplicably excited. Having a system, there is no doubt that Su Li is a traveler. However, as a traveler, he only regained his past memories a month ago due to a car accident. Of course, he, who awakened his past life memories, obtained the golden finger. The golden finger, which awakened only yesterday, is called the listening and persuasion system. Listening to others' suggestions and following them can earn rewards. For example, some people suggest that Su Li run 10 kilometers to exercise his body. Su Li followed the suggestion and ran 10 kilometers, which would greatly enhance his physical fitness. Of course, not everyone's advice is useful, only the advice of specific individuals is effective. A bird swimming in 6 flowers is such a specific person. So today, Su Li found little bird Liuhua and pretended to be a second sick person, hoping to learn from the true eye of the evil king. Since she has the golden finger, Su Li certainly not only wants to enhance her physical fitness. His true goal is to possess true superpowers in this mundane world where there are no extraordinary things, and even become the only deity in this world. So, Su Li's initial goal was extraordinary abilities. He was originally worried that the system wouldn't be able to do it. Now it seems that he underestimated the system. The suggestion of little bird swimming 6 flowers has worked. Just imagine 72 hours. Su Li's heart was filled with anticipation. Although he doesn't know the effectiveness of the system's reward for the heterochromatic pupils, he has a premonition that it is definitely a reward for extraordinary abilities. Just then, the class bell rang. Damn it! The little bird's 6-flower face panicked. I was so excited that I forgot to attend class. Hurry back to the classroom. Su Li also remembered. Next is a lovely class. The homeroom teacher was also late for class. It was like playing a lantern in the bathroom. Looking for shit. The two quickly ran back to the classroom. Su Li, on the other hand, was running with a longing for transcendence. Unfortunately, it takes 72 hours to imagine. Su Li is already a bit eager to acquire superpowers. However, the top priority is to cope with the upcoming lateness. I always feel like I'm going to suffer. Su Li sighed inwardly, as she had just come out of the hospital on the second day, attending a lovely class for the first time. As a result, I was late for Jing's lovely class. It's not good to think about it. Chapter 2. Overly Shy Birds Swimming 6 Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sure enough, Su Li's premonition came true. Little bird tour, Su Li, go out and punish the station. As soon as she entered the classroom, on the podium, the slender and graceful black Nagasaki, with a stern expression, spoke coldly to the two of them who were trying to sneak in through the back door. In the classroom, the students all looked at these two people with strange eyes. Whispers rang out. That Su Li, who has been hospitalized for a month, was actually late for Jing Cute's first class. He really has the courage. I do have the courage, and I'm also mixed up with the second illness of little bird's 6 flowers. I guess it's also a second illness. It's really a pity. Despite being so handsome, is he actually suffering from a second illness? Listening to the discussions of people around her, some female students who were originally looking for an opportunity to approach Su Li due to her handsome appearance suddenly gave up. In the Neon campus, the evaluation among students is very important. Students with poor reputation are generally isolated. No one dares to stand on their own and be with students with poor academic performance, otherwise it will affect themselves, lower their academic performance, and ultimately lead to isolation and even bullying. During Su's 1-month hospitalization, various small groups had already formed in his class, and he found it difficult to integrate into them. Now, due to the decrease in his reputation this time, he is likely to become an outsider during his 3 years in high school. In a corner of the classroom, Bikigu Hachiman observed the wind direction in the class and couldn't help but think to himself, showing a hint of sympathy towards Su Li. However, when I think of Su Li, even if he falls on the edge of the class, he is still a handsome guy. And as soon as I arrived at school, I became good friends with beautiful girls like Little Bird and Six Flowers. What if we become marginalized? Damn it, go to hell with all the current charges. Bikigu Hachiman gritted his teeth and felt that he had developed sympathy for life winners like Su Li, which was truly self-righteous. Although Little Bird's tour of Six Flowers is a secondary illness, no matter how secondary it is still a beautiful girl with a cute appearance. Boys may not dare to touch birds and play Six Flowers on the surface, but there are many who secretly have ideas about how cute birds and Six Flowers are. On the other side of the classroom, a cute-looking and extremely tall girl with a round head, listening to the discussions of the students around her, her expression was extremely complex. Out of the corner of my eye, I quietly paid attention to the figure outside the window, but dared not let the classmates beside me notice. In the first row of the classroom, the popularity of the class was extremely high. Danshingu Sengxia, who was elected as the class monitor, also showed a hint of sympathy on her pretty face at this moment. It's really scary to be excluded just because I'm with a secondary illness. That's why my dark history must never be known to anyone. Danshingu Sengxia secretly made up her mind, but Su Li, whose reputation was lowered just because she approached Little Bird Liuhua, couldn't help but feel sympathy in her heart. Standing outside the classroom, Su Li was unaware that he was about to become a future outsider in the class. However, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Anyway, in his past life, he also worked as a social animal for 3 years, with rich adult experience. How can you look like a high school student playing house? Of course, if he knew about the envy and jealousy of a dead fish eye, he would probably be overjoyed. Since she was punished to stand, Su Li simply closed her eyes and imagined a bird swimming in 6 flowers. To obtain a system reward, you need to imagine in your mind that it takes 72 hours for a bird to swim 6 times. It looks like it's just 3 whole days. But in reality, to imagine that 72 hours would take at least a week, according to Su Li's estimation. After all, he couldn't even imagine a bird swimming 6 flowers while eating and sleeping, and besides, there were always some things that required Su Li to be distracted every day. It would be great if you could complete the suggestions within a week. If you want to acquire extraordinary abilities as soon as possible, you cannot waste a minute or a second. Thinking so, Su Li immediately began to imagine. However, it only took less than 10 minutes. Su Li felt like someone had tugged at the corner of her clothes. What are you doing? It turned out to be the boredom of Little Bird touring Liuhua Station, and I couldn't help but talk to Su Li. Su Li opened her eyes, sighed, and instinctively replied, "I miss you." Unexpectedly, as soon as these words were spoken, Little Bird Liuhua's fair and delicate cheek rubbed against it, instantly turning red. Her eyes were filled with panic, her body trembled, and she shyly turned her face aside. Seeing a little bird swimming in 6 flowers. Su Li only realized that her recent words were somewhat misleading. He couldn't help but laugh and said, "Didn't you say that in order to obtain the true eye of the evil king, you must be the object of meditation? So it's like this." A hint of surprise flashed through the beautiful eyes of the little bird swimming in the 6 flowers, and it suddenly realized that it was a misunderstanding. However, when it comes to Su Li meditating on herself in her mind, there seems to be no difference between it and thinking about herself. The cheeks of the little bird's 6 flowers turned crimson once again. Su Li, who didn't know the idea of little birds swimming 6 flowers, was feeling strange. Ding, the bond value between you and little bird's 6 flowers has been increased by 10 points, the current binding value is 60, due to the increase in binding value, the suggested difficulty of bird game 6 flowers has been discounted. Imagine 72 hours, reduced to 64.8 hours, Su Li was stunned for a moment. What is the binding value of the system, and what are the new features? Chapter 3. Binding Value, Hiratsuka Jing's Care. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, answer the host. The bond value is the bond between you and the proposer. As the binding value increases, the difficulty of the suggestion will decrease. At the same time, as the binding value increases, the system can be upgraded to obtain higher-level suggestions. In an instant, Su Li understood that bond value is a good thing. The high binding value not only reduces the difficulty of the task, but also allows oneself to obtain higher system permissions. In short, just try to increase the binding value as much as possible and it's over. I didn't expect a sentence from my subconscious to have such an effect. I used to imagine 72 hours, but now it has been reduced by 7.2 hours, which is equivalent to a 10% discount. The discount is quite substantial. Su Li was in a happy mood and immediately thought about whether to find a way to improve her bond value with Little Bird in the 6 flowers game. However, seeing the shy and completely hesitant appearance of Little Bird Liuhua at this moment to talk to her, he knew that it would be hopeless for a while. Just be patient, even if you have a problem, don't think about taking it to the sky in one step. Su Li shook her head, feeling that she didn't need to be so anxious. Anyway, this world is a peaceful daily world, and I am still a student. There is plenty of time, so there is no need to worry at all. Keep imagining. With Su Li's meditation. Soon, the bell rang for the end of class. Su Li and Xiaoniao Yulu both breathed a sigh of relief. To Su Li's surprise, Little Bird Liuhua was too shy. As soon as she heard the bell, she immediately ran back to the classroom. Su Li finally remembered that the personality of Little Bird's 6 flowers was indeed very pure. It seems that what I said earlier was a bit stimulating for her. You need to be more careful next time. With a sigh, Su Li was ready to go back. Su Li, come to my office. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the voice of Hiratsuka Jing rang out. Su Li gave a thud and suddenly felt a sense of unease in her heart. In the office. Hiratsuka lazily leaned back on the chair, revealing her seductive and perfect body before Su Li's eyes. Tisk. Su Li pursed her lips, and this woman didn't even notice that she was her student. Too unguarded. Su Li, I can't tell you're so cunning. On the second day after coming to school, you hooked up with Little Bird game. Hiratsuka Jingmei glanced at Su Li and said with a hint of amazement in her tone. Xiaoniao Liuhua is one of the most headache-inducing students in her class. Due to her secondary illness, Xiaoniao Liuhua has never had friends and is almost no different from being isolated. In this situation, Shizuru Hiratsuka didn't know how to handle it. Unexpectedly, on the second day of Su Li's arrival at school, she was pleasantly surprised to find that she was late with Little Bird Liuhua, who was still in her classroom. To be honest, if Su Li and Little Bird were just friends, Hiratsuka Jing would be quite happy. After all, whether it's Su Li or Little Bird swimming 6 flowers, the situation is somewhat special, and it's difficult to find friends in the class. 2 people together, at least don't worry about being too lonely. But skipping classes is not enough. So, Hiratsuka Jing felt the need to talk to Su Li. It's a bit excessive to use these 2 words hook up, quiet and cute. Su Li said indifferently. It's not just because I haven't been at school for a month since the start of school that I feel very unfamiliar with Hiratsuka Jing. In fact, during the 1-month hospitalization, Hiratsuka Jing would squeeze out an afternoon every week to visit him and tutor him on his homework, so as not to let Su Li miss out on his studies. Therefore, Su Li and Hiratsuka Jing's relationship has become quite familiar, even more so than the vast majority of students in the class. So Su Li is not very worried either. although Little Bird Game has some personality issues, it still follows the rules in class and has never been late. Hiratsuka Jing gave Su Li a displeased glance. Tisk, is there a presumption of guilt? Jing is cute, I didn't expect you to be such a teacher, Su Li said with a pretense of yin and yang. You kid. Pingzhua Jing saw Su Li's complete disregard for him as a teacher, and twisted a well on his forehead. But as soon as she thought about Su Li's situation, she sighed. Anyway, don't be late again next time. Hiratsuka Jing thought of the matter of finding Su Li and decided to temporarily let Su Li go. Su Li, when it comes to being hospitalized for a month, you have already fallen behind other classmates in your studies, so you must be more serious in your studies. Have you heard that? I understand that, Su Li nodded. Even if he had a cheat, he couldn't be a scumbag. Knowledge is the most precious treasure of humanity, and Su Li would not think that the extraordinary do not need culture. On the contrary, strong strength must also have the wisdom and knowledge to match it, otherwise in the end, it will only be a foolish person with empty power. Before Su Li awakened her memory, her learning ability was just like that, and her admission score was around 100 before the academic year. Now that he has been hospitalized for a month, his grades will definitely not reach the top 100, but Su Li is not panicked either. He has a system in place and can easily recover his grades. You understand, that's good. Seeing that Su Li was not as casual as before this time, Chizuru Hiratsuka breathed a sigh of relief and then said. Recently, a teacher held a special tutoring class. Originally, she only tutored 2 classmates, but she and I have a good relationship. After listening to me talk about your situation, she decided to add you. I hope you can seize this opportunity and improve your academic performance. As soon as Su Li heard about the need for tutoring, he instinctively wanted to refuse. He has a system and can easily improve the course on his own. However, seeing the hopeful look in Shizuku Hiratsuka's eyes, Su Li immediately suppressed his words. Anyway, this is the opportunity that Hiratsuka Jing fought for herself. Although she spoke casually, it seemed like her friend had agreed to her request casually. But Su Li, who possesses the soul of an adult, is not clear. Hiratsuka Jing's request is equivalent to owing someone a favor. Human relationships always have to be repaid. Shizuku Hiratsuka didn't mention this to herself at all, just silently giving. In that case, how could Su Li refuse? Chapter 4. Unable to learn 3-person group, discovered 3 suggestions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Despite some speculations, Su Li was still somewhat surprised when she saw the figure in the classroom. At this moment, it is already the time for club activities after school. After accepting Hiratsuka Jing's arrangement, Su Li arrived at the classroom she mentioned on time. Then I saw 2 girls who had already arrived in this classroom and the familiar teacher. Let me introduce myself first. Standing on the podium, there is a great beauty with a cold temperament. Her facial features are neat and delicate, with cherry-colored hair that reaches her waist. With a graceful and charming figure, under a purple buttocks-wrapped skirt, there are a pair of perfectly long legs wrapped in black silk, which makes one breathe quickly. Tongshu Zhendong is known as the strictest teacher in the General Military High School, and there are not many students in the entire school who are not afraid of this teacher. But only Su Li knew that Tongshu Zhendong was not as scary as everyone thought. The main reason why this teacher has such a scary temperament is that she actually has a bit of a social anxiety personality and is not good at dealing with people. In addition, it is because work is too tiring and often exhausting. In order to not show it, I have a stern and aloof personality, combined with a stern face, which creates a very fierce and imposing aura. Thinking so in her heart, Su Li didn't say anything on the surface. I, Wennai Guqiao, a student of Class J for 1 year, please give me your guidance. The speaker has an elegant and peaceful temperament, with blue waist-length hair, fair skin, delicate facial features, slender figure, and a perfect appearance. The only regret is that it's a tablet. Guqiao Wennai, known as the Sleeping Beauty of the Literary Forest, is a top liberal arts scholar with a total score of 100 in all subjects. After she finished speaking, she showed a friendly smile to Su Li and the girl next to her. After all, she wanted to interact with the two classmates around her frequently in the future. However, upon seeing Su Li, a hint of curiosity flashed through Guqiao's beautiful eyes. The girl next to her knew her identity, but Su Li, who looked so handsome, had never heard of him. This is a bit strange. In theory, a boy with such a handsome appearance cannot be unknown. After paying more attention to Su Li, Guqiao Wennai looked at Tong Su Jidong with both anticipation and awe. Now in first grade, Wennai Guqiao has not experienced any later events, so she is still looking forward to facing this upcoming teacher, Masatoshi Kirishima. I am Li Zhu Xufang from Class B for 1 year. Please give me more guidance in the future. Another orange-colored student has a hairstyle, blue pupils, glasses with red oval frames, and a petite figure. What's most attractive about her is that she has a pair of exaggerated huge figures. Xufang Lizhu, a master of science, is known as the Thumbelina of mechanical manufacturing. Her face remained expressionless, giving off a feeling of coldness, and she also glanced slightly at everyone. Unlike Guqiao, she did not take a second glance at Su Li due to his handsome appearance, nor did she show any reverence towards Tong Su Jidong. Similarly, her eyes were filled with anticipation. My name is Su Li, a student in Class F for 1 year. Su Li also smiled slightly, neither too enthusiastic nor appearing cold, maintaining an appropriate distance from the crowd. After coming to this complex daily world, especially after General Wu Gao, Su Li met too many familiar anime characters. Therefore, there was no special emotion arising from meeting the 3 female protagonists who couldn't learn. He is certainly interested in beautiful girls, but he doesn't have the idea of being a licking dog. If he can catch a girl, then go after her. If he can't, it doesn't matter. However, at this moment, found qualified person for recommendation. Kobashi Buno, found qualified person for suggestion. Su Fanglazu, found qualified person for recommendation. Tongshu Jindong, 3 warning sounds sounded. A hint of surprise surged in Su Li's heart. Unexpectedly, all 3 people in this classroom meet the system standards. Originally, Su Li didn't pay much attention to extracurricular tutoring, but now it seems necessary to put in some effort. 3 people with the qualification to suggest, once done, will surely soar to the sky. Before the class starts, I have one thing to declare. After the introduction of the 3, Tongshu Jindong entered the main topic expressionlessly. Guqiao and Su Fang, I don't agree with your naive ideas. Giving up your talents for boring dreams is a waste of your time. As soon as these words were spoken, both Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Lizhu looked a bit unattractive. Of course, Su Li understands what's going on. A liberal arts scholar who doesn't want to study humanities, but instead wants to study science. A science expert who wants to study humanities. In the teacher's opinion, such a thing is certainly somewhat outrageous. Especially in the eyes of those who have experienced giving up their talents for the sake of their dreams, Tongshu Jindong is extremely opposed. Tongshu Jindong's merciless accusations made both academic elites feel very unhappy, but because it was their first contact, neither of them expressed their dissatisfaction. However, Su Li is aware that if this trend continues, it won't be long before Tongshu Jindong and these 2 students will become deadlocked and their relationship will become worse. Perhaps I can improve my bond with everyone by changing this point. Su Li seemed lost in thought, but for now, he didn't speak. After all, his system has only been awakened for a day, not even a suggestion has been completed, and he is now just an ordinary person with no ability to change anything. Chapter 5. Inducing Ancient Bridge Wennai, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although at the beginning, Tongshu Jindong's words made the 3 teachers and students very unhappy. But she still started tutoring seriously. At the beginning, of course, it was to test the level of 3 people. For now, only Chinese and mathematics will be tested. Each person was given 2 test papers. Su Li, your situation has been reported to me by teacher Hiratsuka. When it comes to the 2 figures of Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Liju, Tongshu Jidong feels a bit resentful that iron cannot be made into steel, so her tone is not very good. But there is no dissatisfaction with Su Li and Tongshu Jidong, try to make their tone appear gentle. Being hospitalized for a month does have a significant impact on your academic performance, so you need to work harder for the upcoming tutoring. Got it, teacher Tongshu, Su Li replied with a smile. In the eyes of Tongshu Jidong, Su Li's attitude was compared to that of the other 2 academic bullies who were causing minor emotions, which was called obedience. My mood couldn't help but improve. Upon hearing that Su Li had been hospitalized for a month, Guqiao and Xufang Li finally understood why there was an extra Su Li. Looking at Su Li, there was a hint of maternal care in her eyes. Let's start testing. After Tongshu Jidong finished speaking, he lightly announced. After a long time. Testing completed. 3 students, including Su Li, looked at their test papers with pale faces. Guqiao scored a perfect score in Chinese, but in the math test, it was a big 0. On the contrary, Xufang Liju scored perfect in mathematics but got 0 in Chinese language tests. Su Li is certainly not an idiot, but whether it's Chinese or mathematics, he only scores in his 60s. I have no choice, I can rely on passing because of my past life memories. Su Li sighed. In his past life, he was considered a top student, but after 3 years of graduation, he had already forgotten all about his studies. Being able to score over 60 points was already quite impressive. If there is no awakening of past life memories, it may not be even 60 points difficult. But to Su Li's surprise, Tongshu Jidong did not have any dissatisfaction with him, and a hint of approval appeared in his beautiful eyes. After being hospitalized for a month, you can still pass the exam. It's not bad, it seems that you haven't given up on studying during your hospitalization. In an instant, Su Li felt 2 admiring gazes falling on him. Undoubtedly, it comes from the nearby figures of Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Liju. After being hospitalized for a month, I was able to pass the exam. In the eyes of these 2 top students, there is no doubt that they are quite impressive. Of course, Guqiao believed that Su Li was very capable of passing mathematics, while Xufang Li was the opposite. When Tongshu Jidong finished praising Su Li and looked at the other 2, his scalp tingled. These 2 top students undoubtedly possess exceptional talents in their respective fields of expertise. However, their target field is terrifyingly low in talent, and they even got a 0 in the exam, not even compared to Su Li, who has been hospitalized for a month without going to school. But since she said something heavy at the beginning, it's not easy for Tongshu Jidong to say anything more. Since she has accepted the task arranged by the principal to tutor these 2 students, she will naturally take responsibility. Let me explain the wrong question first. Without further ado, Tongshu Jidong directly began tutoring the 3 of them on the wrong question. Su Li pretended to listen, but her mind fell on the system. He knew that he didn't have outstanding talent in learning, so since he planned to become a top student, he had to rely on cheating. 3 proponents, perhaps I can get literary advice from Guqiao and science advice from Xufang Li. Su Li felt lost in thought. His system doesn't allow him to receive any suggestions. First of all, it's a level limit. An overly exaggerated suggestion cannot be accepted. Secondly, the suggestions that can be collected often come from the areas of expertise of the proposer. For example, Little Bird's expertise in Liuhua is in the field of secondary diseases, involving extraordinary skills, so Su Li can receive advice on extraordinary skills. If you seek advice on learning from Little Bird's 6 flowers, the system will not be able to produce results. And both Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Liju excel in learning, but in different fields, so Su Li also needs to start in this area. Having made up her mind, Su Li plans to take advice from the 2 of them first after Tongshu Jidong leaves. Next, Su Li patiently listened, and time passed by quickly. After Tongshu Jidong finished speaking, she immediately announced the end of class and left alone. In the classroom, there are only 3 students left. The 3 of them were not very familiar, so for a moment, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Seeing this, as a boy, Su Li naturally took the initiative to speak up. Guqiao, your grades in humanities are so excellent. Can you give me and Xufang some advice on humanities? Xufang Liju immediately perked up her ears. Obviously, she also admired Guqiao Wennai's humanities achievements and hoped to receive advice from him. Guqiaowen's pretty face was a little flustered, and he weakly said, humanities or something, isn't it very simple? I just wrote casually and got a perfect score. Such Versailles remarks immediately made Su Fanglazu bulge her cheeks. She is nothing in the field of humanities. It's not surprising that Su Li has known such a thing for a long time, but he hasn't given up. As long as Guqiaowen can provide suggestions, even if the suggestions are somewhat outrageous, the system can accept them and form a task. Su Li's mind was racing, and she immediately knew how to guide the topic, saying. Originally, Guqiao was born with exceptional talent, but perhaps this kind of talent was developed due to Guqiao's lifestyle habits. So, Guqiao, do you have any special habits in your daily life? Can you introduce them? I see. Xufang Liju looked amazed, realizing that Su Li's words had some truth, and for a moment, her eyes lit up as she looked at Guqiaowen. Is talent cultivated? And Guqiaowen was somewhat surprised, isn't talent all innate? However, when she saw both of them looking at herself with sparkling eyes, she was also a little guilty. She thought it better to fool them by saying something at random. I have been accustomed to gazing at the sky and thinking at night since I was young, perhaps because of this reason. Ding! In an instant, the voice he was looking forward to rang out in Su Li's mind. +++++++++ newcomer's new book, seeking flowers, seeking review votes, seeking comments, please support it from the big shots. Chapter 6. Memorable and Super Thinking, once again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suggestion. Look up at the starry sky for 1 hour every night for 5 days to receive talent rewards. Unforgettable. Su Li's eyes lit up. Never forget, this reward is simply amazing. It's not in vain to put in a lot of effort to lure Guqiaowen. Guqiao, your suggestion is really good. I will definitely study hard. His eyes lit up as he looked at Ueno Furuhashi with a grateful expression on his face. I can't read this ancient bridge text anymore. Learning. Do you learn to look up at the stars? This approach is of no use for studying humanities, right? Xufang Liju also had some doubts, thinking that looking up at the stars or something was too absurd and unscientific. What can be learned through this method? Guqiaowen was a little guilty. Su Li, this may not be useful. I don't think you should hope too much. It's okay, trying it won't hurt. Su Li didn't take it seriously, but then he looked at the nearby Xufang Liju. Xufang, do you have any special learning methods in science? Since we have obtained the system task from Guqiao Wennai, why not induce Xufang to take care of the bead at once? This time it was Guqiaowen's turn to perk up his ears and pay close attention to look at Xufang Liju. After all, her goal is to get into a science university and become an astronomer. Do you still need to learn science? Don't you know how to solve the problems? Su Fanglazu helped his glasses and said something quite Versailles. Guqiaowen's cheeks bulged and he felt depressed. She put in a lot of effort to study science, but when Su Fangli spoke such Versailles, she felt like she was standing and talking without any pain in her back. For a moment, the positions of Fumio Furuhashi and Riho Ogata were reversed. It seems that Xufang is just like Guqiao, both of whom have exceptional talents. Su Li smiled slightly and was not surprised at all. So, Xufang, have you had any habits since childhood? I think we can start with your habits and cultivate scientific thinking. Developing scientific thinking through lifestyle habits is a bit unscientific, isn't it? Xufang Liju's tone directly denied Su Li's idea. She is a science and engineering student with a clear mind, and when she hears illogical words, she will not hesitate to express her own opinions without considering the face of others. Of course, Su Li didn't care about this and said earnestly, clasping his hands together. It's okay to say something, please, Xufang. Okay, since you must want to know, Xufang sighed, I've been helping with household chores since I was young, and besides that, I don't have any special habits. Ding, get advice, suggestion. Do household chores for 5 days and receive rewards. Super thinking. Can accelerate the host's thinking and gain computing power comparable to a computer. Su Li's heart was filled with joy. This reward was not inferior to that of Guqiao Wennai. Today's harvest was indeed good. Ding, your current suggestion list is full. You cannot obtain any new suggestions until you complete any of them. At this point, the system sends out another prompt sound. Su Li didn't feel strange. The suggestion list is limited. With his current basic permissions, the suggestion list can only receive up to 3 suggestions. Only after completing the suggestion and leaving it empty can new suggestions be received. Of course, after his system upgrade and permission increase, the suggestion list will also be increased, and more suggestions can be collected at once. Anyway, there are already 3 suggestions, so there is no need to collect new suggestions until these suggestions are completed. Su Li doesn't care either. He has to eat his food one by one, and it's impossible to become fat all at once. Su Li, I advise you not to have too much hope. There is no connection between doing housework and learning science well. Xufang Liju also didn't want Su Li to listen to her unscientific suggestions, so she didn't hesitate to pour cold water. I also think so. Su Li, looking at the stars doesn't necessarily mean you can learn Chinese. Xufang Liju took the lead, and Guqiao quickly took the opportunity to advise Su Li. Both of them didn't want Su Li to have any unrealistic fantasies. If she could learn humanities and sciences so easily, they had already achieved it. They didn't even need to participate in this tutoring group today. Don't worry, both of you. I'm just trying, even if I fail, it's okay. Su Li responded with a smile to their advice. After all, the two of them also came from good intentions, so Su Li certainly wouldn't get angry about it. Seeing Su Li's answer like this, Xufang Li didn't mind, but Guqiao was even more worried. Oh, I hope Su Li won't be too disappointed by this, she thought to herself as she pinched her small hand. After school, Su Li returned directly to his place of residence. His home is a 2-bedroom, 1-living-room apartment located on the 6th floor of an old-fashioned community. In Tokyo, where every inch of land is precious, it can barely be considered a luxury mansion. This house is the inheritance left by Su Li's deceased parents, and there is also a small amount of inheritance. The inheritance will support Su Li to finish high school at most. If he wants to go to college, he has to earn money on his own. Before awakening his past life memories, Su Li originally planned to work after high school to earn college tuition fees. However, now that he has a golden finger, he naturally does not plan to work anymore. If there is a problem, who will still be a social animal? After returning home, Su Li made her own dinner and then did housework. The proposal of Yuzuru Ogata was immediately completed. Su Li felt as if her thinking had become much clearer. Feeling the strengthening of her thinking ability, Su Li's face showed a smile. The system reward does not require complete completion of suggestions in order to receive them. But it is obtained continuously. For example, Su Li received a suggestion that he could exercise once a day for 10 days to gain 10 points of strength. So, every day Su Li exercises, she can gain some strength until the 10th day of exercise, and together they can gain 10 points of strength. Su Li completed the proposal of Little Bird's tour of 6 flowers for an hour, and he also gained a little bit. His vision, which was originally somewhat myopic, became clearer than ever before. With tangible gains in hand, Su Li naturally worked even harder to complete the suggestions. After tidying up the household chores, just meditate on the birds swimming in 6 flowers. At night, when the stars come out, they come to the windowsill and look up at the starry sky. Without any accidents, Su Li felt that her humanities skills were gradually improving. In this situation, Su Li's time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, we arrived at the coaching group 3 days later. Today is the test again. Su Li and Xufang, are you confident? Guqiao looked nervously at Su Li and Xufang. Yuzuru Ogata's expression was calm, but she trembled slightly, revealing her nervousness. She took a deep breath. I have been working hard these days to review my Chinese language. I should be able to get better results in this test. What about Su Li? Both of them looked at Su Li. I thought Su Li would be as nervous as them. After all, once the test results are not good, they will have to face the strict teacher Tongxu. If it were anyone else, they would be nervous. However, to their surprise, Su Li was not at all nervous at the moment, but instead had a calm and composed expression on her face. Facing the curious gazes of the two, Su Li smiled slightly and said, "These days, I have followed your advice and felt that it is very useful. I should be able to achieve good results this time." That's it, Su Li is too nervous and mentally unstable. At this moment, Kobayashi Buno and Yukari Uchikawa exchanged a glance, as if they could see each other's thoughts. Does anyone read it? Big shots. The data for this book is too dismal, and V's collection is still insufficient. Big shots, give us some flowers and evaluation tickets. Little Pock Street's heart is already cold. Chapter 7. Achievements soar up. Shocked Guqiao Wennai and. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Of course, both Fumio Furuhashi and Riho Ogata are aware of how unreliable the advice they gave that day was. Not having half a penny may lead to improvement. They thought that Su Li was just talking and wouldn't really do that boring thing. But unexpectedly, Su Li seemed to have really followed their unreliable advice. At this moment, it is even more reassuring that their suggestions are useful. How could it be useful? For a moment, both of them couldn't help but sympathize with Su Centrifugal. In their opinion, Su Li must be under too much study pressure these days. So they deceive themselves by saying that their unreliable advice is useful. I even made myself believe it. But after the test by teacher Tongxu, no matter how much Su Li deceives himself, he still has to face his true grades. What will be Su Li's mood then? Thinking about it, even Guqiao feels a bit worried. I hope Su Li won't collapse. Just when they were a little worried in their hearts, Tongxu has entered the classroom. Distribute the test paper as usual. Let's start testing. Although Guqiao was still worried about Su Li's mental state, she withdrew her thoughts and focused entirely on the exam paper as the exam began. Sha sha sha. Soon, only the sound of writing remained in the classroom. Tongxu sat on the podium, watching 3 students testing. The Chinese language test is easy and hassle-free for Guqiao writing. However, Xufang Liju was similar to the last test, frowning and thinking for half a day every time he wrote a question. Xufang's talent in humanities is too low. Her thinking is completely that of a science student. Tongxu frowned. Finally, he turned to Su Li. To her surprise, Su Li's test performance this time was much better than last time. Although it may not be as smooth as Guqiao, it seems that there have been no obstacles encountered. It seems that Su Li has been working very hard these 3 days. Tongxu felt increasingly satisfied with Su Li. This is a progressive student. And he put his mind to the right path. Unlike the ancient bridges of Buno and Nishikawa, where their great talents are not used, they tend to go astray. Thinking of Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Lizhu gives Tongshu Jidong a headache. The Chinese test is over, followed by the math test. This time, the situation was reversed, and it was Gu Qiaowen's turn to frown and chew on his pen, while Xufang Lizhu felt incredibly relaxed. And Su Li's state once again surprised Tongshu Jidong. Still going smoothly. It's not a big deal if the situation goes smoothly, it depends on the final score. Although Tongshu Jidong was surprised in her heart, she didn't think much about it. As a teacher, she had seen too many students who had good exam results, but the final results were not very good. The difficulty of this exam is similar to last time. In Tongshu Jidong's opinion, no matter how good Su Li's condition is, her grades will not be much higher. After all, I was hospitalized for a month. Not long after. Tongshu Jidong handed out the exam results expressionlessly. However, the results were almost the same as last time. Gu Qiaowen scored 100 points in Chinese and 5 points in mathematics. Introduction. Li Zhu scored 6 points in Chinese and 100 points in mathematics. When Gu Qiaowen and Xufang Li saw their exam results, they immediately lowered their heads. I was so ashamed that I couldn't even face the gaze of Tongshu Jidong. Seeing their performance, Tongshu Jidong's mood became somewhat bad. These two people's talents in different fields are really too low. She almost began to doubt her teaching ability. Fortunately, Tongshu Jidong looked at Su Li beside her and her eyes became much friendlier. Su Li, your test results have improved significantly this time. Once this statement is made. In an instant, both Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Lizhu raised their heads in surprise. Everyone looked at Su Li. They were worried about Su Li's mental state before, afraid that Su Li would face bad results after the exam. Unexpectedly, teacher Tongshu said that Su Li's improvement was significant. Is it really fake? But Tongshu Jidong handed out Su Li's exam paper. Chinese. 80, Mathematics. 85, in an instant, both Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Lizhu had beautiful round eyes, showing an incredulous expression. How could it be? This kind of achievement. The two beautiful girls were both stunned at the moment. This improvement is not just significant, it's simply terrifying. They clearly remember that Su Li's grades last time were only in their early 60s. In just 3 days, I have actually improved so much. It's simply outrageous. In fact, Tongshu Jidong's mood is similar to that of Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Lizhu. An extreme shock in my heart. In just 3 days, there has been such a huge improvement. It's simply unbelievable. If it weren't for knowing that Su Li's admission score was only around 100 and he had been hospitalized for a month. Tongshu Jidong even suspected that Su Li was clumsy in the last exam. However, no matter what, Su Li's current test results have indeed made great progress. Compared to the two people on the side, more than half of Tongshu Jidong's bad mood dissipated. Su Li's improvement proves that her tutoring is still effective, Tongshu Jidong thought so. In my heart, I also increasingly recognize Su Li. Of course, she understands better that even if her tutoring effect is good, just 3 days won't have much effect. The main reason is that it can't be separated from Su Li's efforts in these days. A student who works so hard. It's simply satisfying to see Tongshu Jidong more and more. It's completely different from those two students who waste their talents. But the next moment, Tongshu Jidong was stunned. I have made such a big improvement thanks to Professor Tongshu's guidance, as well as the suggestions from students Guqiao and Xufang. Faced with the shocked gaze of the three, Su Li smiled and said. In fact, Tongshu Jidong was wrong. Su Li hasn't spent much time studying these days. The progress of these 3 days of tasks has improved, resulting in significant growth in his memory and thinking abilities. Therefore, after just a brief reading, the grades reached such a level. So, Su Li is completely honest from the bottom of her heart. But when these words fell into the ears of the three, they became strange. Guqiao and Xufang are completely in a state of confusion. Su Li actually said it was thanks to their advice. Only they are most aware that their advice has nothing to do with Su Li's academic performance improvement. Why did Su Li say that? They find it strange. Jidong also looked in surprise at Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Liju. The originally sharp gaze suddenly became milder and suddenly realized. So these days, have you two also helped Su Li with his studies? No wonder classmates really need to help each other. Jidong suddenly changed his perspective on the two good students. Although innocent in personality, he is very friendly towards his classmates. Because of this, it is even more important to guide the two towards the right path. Hear the words of Jidong. Guqiao and Xufang were both confused. Chapter 8. Brain Tonics of Guqiao and Xufang, the Teacher Group. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Guqiao and Xufang really want to say that you misunderstood, teacher. We didn't do anything. However, facing the approving gaze of Jidong, the two of them were feeling guilty and unable to speak. After all, after these 3 days of tutoring, Jidong's attitude has become increasingly strict. Both of these people have felt it. Now, it's hard to express friendliness. They also breathed a sigh of relief, embarrassed to reveal the truth. But the two of them were also aware that this was completely in Su Li's favor. If it weren't for Su Li's words, Jidong would definitely not have done so. I understand. At this moment, there was a hint of confusion in Guqiao's beautiful eyes. I figured out something. The reason why Su Li used such a terrible excuse to say that his academic improvement was due to our unreliable proposal, which was completely intentional. Guqiao looked gratefully at Su Li, feeling deeply moved in his heart. Su Li, it must be because he saw that the atmosphere between us and teacher Tongshu was not very good, that he deliberately said this, hoping to ease our relationship with teacher Tongshu. I see, Su Li actually wanted to do it a long time ago, but he didn't tell us. He just silently went to implement his plan alone. In order to meet us in just a few days and put in so much effort, Su Li's classmate is really a saxi. With such thoughts, Guqiao's heart became increasingly moved, and a slight blush appeared on his cheeks. Xufang Liju couldn't figure it out at first. But at this moment, he noticed the grateful gaze of Guqiao towards Su Li. Suddenly, it was also a sudden realization. Subsequently, while feeling moved, I also felt a bit embarrassed. After all, that day, she rudely interrupted Su Li's imagination. As a result, Su Li didn't mind at all. Instead, he helped them ease their relationship with teacher Tongshu today. Ding, your bond with Guqiao Wennai has been increased by 10 points, currently at 60 points. Ding, your bond value with Xufang Liju has increased by 10 points, currently at 60 points. The difficulty of Guqiao's suggestion has decreased. The difficulty of Xufang Li's suggestion has decreased. What is the situation? Suddenly, 2 warning sounds sounded. Let Su Li feel a bit confused. What's going on? I didn't do anything, how could I increase my bond value? At this moment, he felt 2 moving gazes coming from the side. These 2 guys don't have any brain teasers, do they? Su Li's face became strange. If he were to know their thoughts, he would probably laugh out loud. He is completely honest and has no intention of helping the two. As a result, these 2 guys actually brainwashed him into the male lead of Aziz, and it's really nobody. What surprised Su Li even more was that, the tutoring is over, and Jidong has just left. Su Li, thank you. Jidong's cheeks blushed slightly as she stopped Su Li and said shyly. I thank you too, said Rizu Ogata, feeling a bit shy and expressing her gratitude to Su Li. What do you want me to do? Su Li said with a bewildered expression. Guqiao was stunned for a moment, and then a knowing smile appeared on his pretty face. Su Li, a classmate, refuses to admit that he has done something good. It's really too much of an assassin. Guqiao lifted his head and looked at Su Li with shyness and admiration in his beautiful eyes. I understand, Su Li did nothing. Goodbye Su Li, he said then. She rushed out of the classroom with a light body. You are a good man. Next time, please have lammy and noodles. Xufang Li's face turned slightly red as she looked at Su Li, her beautiful eyes filled with admiration, and she nodded heavily. Although she has a technical mind, she also has the delicate emotions of a girl, which is why she shares the same idea with Buno Kobayashi. Su Li feels outrageous. What the hell, why did you suddenly receive 2 good person cards? After thinking for a while, I didn't understand. Su Li is too lazy to think too much. Anyway, the increase in binding value is practical, which means the difficulty of the task is reduced. He can get the reward faster now. As soon as Su Li thought about the reward he was about to receive, he couldn't help but think of the suggestion from Little Bird's tour of 6 flowers. The difficulty level is the highest for birds swimming in 6 flowers. Therefore, Su Li wants to play Liuhua with Little Bird to enhance more bonds. The problem is, the character of that guy from Little Bird game is also too shy. Last time I subconsciously said a sentence, but the little bird Liuhua has been avoiding him for the past 2 days, and when I see him, my face turns red. I completely dare not talk to him. We can't stimulate her next time, Su Li sighed. Such a pure-hearted girl is really rare. In the classroom office. Hiratsuka Jing is looking at a club application form with a headache. At this moment, I saw Jidong walking in, looking in a good mood. I couldn't help but feel a hint of curiosity. Strange, as a younger generation like Jidong, every time the tutoring is over, his mood is not very good. How could he become so good today? Is it because the 2 questions in the tutoring class have made progress for children? What a winter sauce. Hiratsuka Jing immediately spoke up and said, why are you feeling so good today? Has there been any progress in the grades of Buno Furuhashi and Leiju Ogata? She never thought it was Su Li. After all, as Su Li's homeroom teacher, she knew the other party's situation very well. It's good if you can barely pass the entrance exam for about 100 students and be hospitalized for a month. Only with the progress of Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Leiju can it be possible. After all, both of these guys are true geniuses, the kind of genius that amazes all the universities in Tokyo. Even if you transfer majors, it should be easy to achieve good grades. Being called Zendongjiang, Tongshu Zendongdun felt a bit embarrassed. But when she heard that it was Hiratsuka Jing, her most respected senior, calling herself that way, she couldn't say anything. No, Senior Hiratsuka, classmates Guqiao and Xufang still did not perform well in this exam. Tongshu Zhendong sighed and felt a headache at the thought of these 2 people. They are completely unsuitable for transfer. In my opinion, they are completely wasting their talents. Isn't it Guqiao Wennai and Xufang Leiju? Hiratsuka was stunned for a moment. Was it still Su Li who couldn't succeed? That's impossible, isn't it? She knows the situation of Su Li the best. It can't be because of Su Li, it should be something else. Thinking this way, Hiratsuka Jing instinctively said, is it because you successfully went on a blind date? A successful blind date? What, blind date? In an instant, 2 screams of surprise rang out on the other side of the classroom. Subsequently, 2 dignified and beautiful female teachers rushed over immediately. Staring at Tongshu Zhendong with murderous intent in his eyes. I can't forgive you for being so young and successfully going on a blind date. Woo-woo, it's really enviable. Senior Shanzhong. Senior Qianshi. Being stared at by 2 seniors like this, Tongshu Zhendong was startled and immediately sighed, saying, it's not because of a blind date, Teacher Pingzuka. It's because Su Li's grades have made significant progress. Ah. Hiratsuka Jing is dumbfounded, is it really because of him? On the side, Sakoko Yamanaka and Kiyoshi Chihiro were also stunned for a moment, wondering what the situation was. Chapter 9. The Stunned Teacher Group, Liuhua. You learn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Li's grades have made great progress. Tongshu Jidong explained the changes in Su Li's average score from 60 to over 80 in the past few days. Hideyoshi Hiratsuka's eyes were wide open, and the cigarette he had just smoked accidentally fell off. That kid, did he really get this kind of score? How could it be possible to improve your grades by just over 20 points in each subject in just 3 days? It's really fake. How could there be a student who has made such rapid progress? Yamanaka Sakoko and Chihiro Chiashi were also surprised, and for a moment, they couldn't help but feel a little curious about this student. They have been teachers for many years and have seen many students who have made rapid progress in their grades. But, in 3 days, there are not many people who have made such great progress, even if they are geniuses. Perhaps it was because he didn't perform well on the first exam and improved a bit on the second one that he finally achieved his true level. At this moment, Tongshu Jidong remembered Su Li's state during the exam and couldn't help but speculate. Anyway, it's abnormal to make such rapid progress, that's the only reason. If that's the reason, then it's understandable. Indeed, no matter how talented a person is, they cannot make such great progress in 3 days. Sanwako Yamanaka and Kiyoshi Chihiro finally felt a little understood and couldn't help but nod. Did you have a bad first time? Hiratsuka Jingru glanced thoughtfully at Tomasuk Jidong. But I have some doubts in my heart. She knows Su Li's admission score, and with 1 month of hospitalization, she can actually pass the exam, which is considered Su Li's normal performance. Now achieving a score of over 80 points is clearly outrageous. However, she felt strange in her heart, but couldn't come up with a better reason, so she could only think as Tongshu Jidong said. Perhaps that kid also worked and studied during his hospitalization. Hiratsuka sighed and didn't think much. Anyway, Su Li's improvement in grades is good news and she is also happy. Compared to Su Li, those problematic children really bother her. Looking at the club application form in my hand, there are 3 big characters for the service department. Hiratsuka Jing felt a bit helpless and didn't know if she should agree to the request of the problematic child. Ding, the suggestion for Little Bird's tour of 6 flowers has been completed, and you will receive a reward with the colorful eyes. In the blink of an eye, it was already a week later. Su Li has already acquired the talent of unforgettable and super thinking. Until today, the suggestion of Little Bird's tour of 6 flowers has finally been completed, and Su Li's first extraordinary ability, Alien Eyes, has finally been obtained. The 2 talents of unforgettable by sight and super thinking have enabled me, who used to have only ordinary qualifications, to possess a talent comparable to that of a genius. In the corner of the classroom, Su Li was excited and said, but compared to these 2 talents, extraordinary abilities are what I look forward to the most. He couldn't help but look out the window, his thoughts flickered, and in an instant, he felt his vision becoming clearer than ever before. At a glance, everything within 100 meters is extremely clear, even the small characters on the club advertising board hundreds of meters away can be seen at a glance. What a powerful vision, but the ability of this heterochromatic pupil is not just that. Su Li smiled and looked at several girls walking by the roadside. The pupils of her left eye shone purple, while those of her right eye shone golden. In an instant, the clothes on those girls disappeared. Purple. Black, I'll go. I didn't wear this one, it's too bold. That's right, perspective. The most powerful ability of heterochromatic pupils is perspective, which can directly see through the clothes of others. If applied to the extreme, it can even see the internal organs of others. Undoubtedly, it is a truly extraordinary ability. But after using it, Su Li felt his eyes turn black, his spirit became tired, his whole body became weak, and his physical strength seemed to be greatly depleted. Almost lying on the table. Using extraordinary abilities will consume my physical and mental energy. Su Li took a deep breath and realized that his extraordinary abilities could not be used without restraint. There is still some consumption. Both physical and mental energy will be consumed. In contrast, Su Li felt that the physical exhaustion made him more uncomfortable than the mental exhaustion. Perhaps due to the time travelers, my mental strength is naturally stronger, but my physical strength is at the same level as my peers. No, my peers are far inferior. Su Li has self-awareness that due to a car accident and being hospitalized for a month, his health is relatively weak. So, next, if Su Li wants to increase the frequency of using extraordinary abilities, she needs to find ways to increase her physical strength. Of course, to improve physical strength, one also needs to rely on cheating. Who are you looking for? Su Li frowned, as if there were no advisors in the field of physical fitness. No, there's one. Su Li's eyes twitched and suddenly thought of someone. It is my dear homeroom teacher, Hiratsuka Jing. Hiratsuka Jing's fists are so hard, they seem to have been trained before. Maybe you can come to her for advice. Undoubtedly, Hiratsuka Jing is also a qualified person for suggestion. As early as the day of awakening to cheating, Su Li's system detected it. Just as Su Li was pondering what topic to use to guide Hiratsuka Jing, suddenly, a ball of paper was thrown onto her desk. Su Li was stunned for a moment, picked up the paper ball, and looked up. But it was the little bird in the front row, Liuhua, looking at him excitedly. This guy finally dares to talk to me. Su Li is funny. He didn't expect little bird swimming 6 flowers to be so innocent that he dared not speak to him for a week in a row, and it wasn't until today that he dared to speak up. Su Li shook her head, opened the paper ball, and looked at what little bird swimming 6 flowers wanted to say. After class, we will meet outside the Tomb of the Dead Leaves. 6 flowers, the Tomb of Dead Leaves. Su Li has a strange expression on her face, can't it be that one, after class? Su Li arrived at the iron fence in the corner of the campus and saw a tree under which leaves were constantly falling. The little bird, Liuhua, was holding a leaf with a heavy expression. For someone who doesn't know, they might think that little bird swimming 6 flowers is trying to confess to someone. Sure enough. Su Li already knew what the little bird was trying to do when it came to Liuhua. However, in front of Xianaiwa Liuhua, Su Li still needs to show that she is a secondary illness. Sisei, are you looking for me for anything? Su Li looked like a good student and stared at little bird Liuhua with an extremely respectful expression. Staring at Su Li, little bird Liuhua blushed and nervously turned her gaze away. Cough cough, my student, have you learned the awakening method of the evil king's true eye that I taught you last time? Xianaiwa Liuhua casually found a topic to shift her shyness. I have mastered the true eye of the evil king, Sisei. Su Li immediately showed a look of admiration and said, you are truly the true eye envoy of the evil king. Your teachings are really useful, but my qualifications are not very good. It took me a week to awaken the true eye of the evil king. Little bird swims 6 flowers and is stunned. What did you learn? How could she possibly learn the awakening method of the evil king's true eye that she casually fabricated? Immediately, the little bird suddenly swam through the 6 flowers. Yes, Su Li is also a person from her own world, familiar with the way of speaking between the 2 diseases. Truly worthy of being one's own student. Thinking so, little bird Liuhua cherished this companion even more and more. It's really rare to find such a companion in this place where there are many good students. Chapter 10. Jidong Magic Association, with the Snowfall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cough, let's put aside the matter of the evil king's true eye for now. Time is limited, I'll get straight to the point, you have to listen carefully. Little bird Liuhua did not dwell on the topic of evil King Xinyan, after all, she had something important to talk to Su Li about today. She stared at Su Li seriously and said with a serious expression, I want to establish our base in this school. Is it finally time to establish a base? I understand, sensei. It's established in the form of a human society, right? Su Li nodded, deliberately showing an excited expression. I am truly a student of my evil king's true eye, who quickly understood my intention. The bird's eyes lit up as it swam through the 6 flowers, and its mood became filled with joy. I didn't expect Su Li to understand herself so well that she immediately understood that she wanted to establish a club. Truly worthy of being one's own student. But how did they know that Su Li knew the plot? If it were someone else, ghosts would understand what it means to be a little bird swimming in 6 flowers. Whether it's a club or not, the school regulations require me to join a club. Coincidentally, I haven't joined the club yet. Establishing a fishing club with Liuhua is also good, and it can also help me improve my bond with Liuhua. Su Li thought this way in her heart, mainly to enhance her bonds, not to agree to join the 6 Flowers Club just for the sake of fishing. Jidong Magic Association. In the teacher's office, Hiratsuka Jing looked at the club application form in her hand and her head turned big. She lifted her head and looked at the 2 guys in front of her with anger. Little Bird Tour, Su Li, can you tell me what this club does? Upon hearing this, Little Bird Liuhua suddenly became enthusiastic and raised her fist, saying, in order to search for the invisible boundary and fight against the Invisible Boundary Management Bureau, we must establish our own stronghold in the school. The Jidong Magic Society was born for this. Click and click, as she spoke, Little Bird Liuhua heard the sound of Shizuka Hiratsuka clenching her fist, and her face turned pale with fear. She quickly hid behind Su Li and said weakly. My student, the Iron Lady has been entrusted to you to handle, this is the test entrusted to you. Su Li looked at Xiaoniao Liuhua in anger and then looked at Hiratsuka Jing in front of him. Quiet and lovely, as you can see, we are going to establish a magic club with activities aimed at exploring magic. Hiratsuka Jing feels very tired. She was quite happy to hear that Su Li's grades had improved, thinking that Su Li was a sensible and well-behaved student. As a result, it seems to be another problem for children. However, when I thought of the lonely little bird swimming in Liuhua, I finally found a friend. She couldn't help but soften her heart. Thinking of another question about children's applications, my heart couldn't help but move. An idea rises from the heart. Just when she had a crooked idea, a figure happened to walk over. Teacher Hiratsuka, how have you been thinking? A pleasant cold voice sounded. Su Li and Xiaoniao Liuhua couldn't help but take a glance. In an instant, both of them were stunned for a moment. That is a neon high school black, straight and beautiful girl who seems to only exist in imagination. A dignified appearance, exquisite facial features, fair and transparent skin, perfectly sized pink lips, over-shoulder black long hair, and a cute face that goes against the rules. A perfect appearance, but unfortunately, the temperament is too cold and plain without any ups and downs. The Snowfall is like Snowfall. Su Li recognized the other person at a glance. Rao had watched anime countless times in his past life, but when he saw a real person, he couldn't help but be amazed. The real Snowfall seems much more beautiful than in anime. But it's even colder. Under the snow, your application has put me in a bit of a dilemma. Upon seeing the other party, Shizumi Hiratsuka's eyes flickered, indicating that she was having some ulterior motives. Just one person has to apply for a club classroom, which doesn't comply with the regulations, she said, hearing that the other party is also applying for a club does not comply with the regulations. The bird's eyes lit up as it swam through the 6 flowers, and a glimmer of hope suddenly appeared in its heart. If the homeroom teacher can approve other students who do not meet the requirements to apply for the club, does that mean she can also apply successfully? There is no violation of regulations. With my grades, I can apply for a club classroom that belongs exclusively to me, explained Xue without noticing any other classmates nearby. However, Su Li could feel that when Snow came in, his gaze seemed to stop on him for a moment. Is there a reason for that? Su Li frowned and realized something, but didn't say much. At this moment, upon hearing the words of Snowfall, little bird Liuhua immediately raised her ears. This reminds me that people are different from each other. Under the snow, I am a super top student in the top 3 of the total martial arts high school. The school does allow privileges to be granted to academic achievers. Compared to Snow, she and Su Li are not qualified enough. Be humble in your life. Under the snow, Shizuru Hiratsuka sighed helplessly. Not giving the teacher any face. I'm just telling the truth. Xue seems to be like Ogata Rizu, who doesn't like to compromise with others, but rather speaks frankly. However, her aura is much more terrifying than that of Xufang Liju. The little bird swimming around Liuhua couldn't help but feel a bit scared, and couldn't help but shrink behind Su Li. The school does allow for privileges, but as a teacher, I still have an obligation to give some advice to students' lives. Hiratsuka Jing already knows a little how to deal with the snowfall, and cannot reason with others because you may not have been able to explain it to them before. Coincidentally, these 2 students also need to apply for a club, which belongs to the same category as yours, and both of them are not enough in number. I suggest that you merge to form a club. How about that? Hear Hiratsuka Jing's words. The little bird was stunned by the 6 flowers and the snowfall. Let their clubs merge. For a moment, the little bird was a bit reluctant to swim around Liuhua. She is not opposed to merging clubs with others. The problem is that Xue's aura is too terrifying, and she dare not stay with Xue. Oppose. Oppose. But little bird Liuhua dared not speak, while Su Li and Xue spoke in unison. The 2 of them looked at each other and saw the displeasure in their eyes. You go ahead and talk. Su Li spread his hand. Xue glanced at Su Li and then looked at Hiratsuka Jing without hesitation. My club has legitimate club activities, and these 2 classmates' clubs have no connection to my club activities at all. I don't think our 2 clubs can merge. She had already seen the application form for the Jidong Magic Society on Hiratsuka's desk. She naturally has no interest in merging with such an ambiguous society. Xue mercilessly refused, and Ping Zuojing's head suddenly turned big. Then, she glared at Su Li with anger. I want to hear what the reason is for this guy. I also believe that forcibly merging clubs of different natures is meaningless. Su Li smiled slightly, as if he hadn't noticed the gaze of Hiratsuka Jing. Joking, he refused to agree to merge with the Ministry of Attendance. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation votes, seeking comments, and not joining the service department, please rest assured.